climate change coalition. A welcomed addition to the Manx political arena?
Very much so, from DEFA's perspective, and particularly my perspective. Until now we've had disparate groups, and they have different agendas, and sometimes they're not informed as to what government is doing. We have met with Friends of the Earth and various other groups, but the Green Party, Friends of the Earth and various others coming together is a great opportunity for us to explore where they believe we should be going, and also let them see and expose them to what we're actually doing within the department.
You said targets from the IPPC report, that Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, doesn't make your job any easier. But here you have a dedicated lobby to support government in its efforts to mitigate what I suppose has been forecast to be a breakdown in climate.
Well, it depends on where you read it and how you read it. Certainly the new targets that they're setting to reduce to 1.5 degrees centigrade temperature increase, and the targets by the 2030 are going to be difficult. We've been working through the plan. Originally we committed to the original commitments of 80% of the 1990 by 2050. That was going to be difficult. There are some stage points that will be critical to us, and that's when we finish with our power station, gas combined power station, which was built 15 years ago, state of the art at the time, very efficient, but it burns hydrocarbons. So when that reaches the end of its useful life, which will probably be 2030, 35, that will come offline, and that'll see a step change if we move to renewables, as I anticipate. Obviously I can't commit future administrations, but certainly that would be my intention if I was around at that stage. That'll be a step change, but then we've got to look at all the other legacy issues that we have to deal with. Electric cars and electrification. Well, we're working on electrification, and I hope that with the commitments from the UK and various other countries to stop manufacturing hydrocarbon cars, there will be electric cars available to us, so that'll be a step change if we're using renewables. But then we have the legacy issue of all our housing. New houses, we're bringing in new building regs over the next few months, which will address some of the issues. Our building regs are already in advance of those in the UK, but we can step change that. But then the houses that were built before the new building regs will fall well below insulation standards and energy efficiency standards that we would like to see. So somehow we're going to have to address that.
Obviously, you've inherited this mitigation strategy as an Environment Minister. These figures that get bandied around is the 80% reduction of 1990 levels by 2050. Are we on course? Where are we up to?
Well, the situation is that I didn't inherit it. I was actually part of the department, but not the minister, when the mitigation policy went through in 2016, and I was fully supportive of the policy. There is a 5-year action plan, and we're working our way through that, and it revolves around energy efficiency and various other things, and a lot of items in there, and we're well into dealing with that. What I think we do need to do is move that plan on so that we start looking further forward, and we need to assess what's happening as a result of the latest IPPC recommendations. At a recent policy and strategy meeting, I tasked our ecosystems and future energies department, or not department, but section, to think boldly and go where no man has been before and look at the situation, because I think we need to take some bold initiatives and look to the future.
And obviously perhaps working with an NGO would be bold, and it would be a collaborative effort that would help us reach our targets.
Well, whether we can meet those targets or not remains to be seen. I'm not going to. I mean, I would very much like to be able to meet those targets, and I think when we get the NGOs in and the Climate Change Coalition together, we can start talking about where we're going. Obviously, it always boils down to one thing at the end of the day. The will might be there, but where does the money come from? And from a practical point of view, and I've said this in the past, we have to look at what we've got to do, how we can work with the resource that we have. I think there is a big commitment in government, certainly within my department, to try and move matters forward.
You've talked about sort of within the financial limitations, you are moving forward and you are doing all you can. I think you've sort of historically said they formed this climate change coalition. They formed because they believe there's a worrying lack of urgency from government on this issue. So what is, I suppose, the flagship policy? What is the action plan that's in place that is reassuring the Manx public, that climate change is being addressed?
Well, I wish they'd been at our last policy and strategy meeting, and they would have seen that there is definitely some urgency there, and we are working very hard. When it comes to a flagship policy, I think we have a climate change strategy in place, but as I said earlier, the goalposts have been moved, so we've got to reassess. Now, our Environment and Infrastructure Committee, which is a Council of Ministers subcommittee, has tasked the department to come back to them by January this coming year with a new plan and initiatives that we can put in place. Now, with the Climate Change Coalition, hopefully we will be able to listen to what they have to say and their ideas, and we can feed into that process. So that's quick by government standards, and when you speak to me next in the new year, I will be able to inform you of where we're going, hopefully with new policy objectives and initiatives.